I wanna be that boar. According to Google, the verb support is defined as give assistance to, especially financially. Well, now I am broke and my Lucy is still only Mindscape 4, so this definition is clearly wrong. Anyway, when talking about games, a support in the traditional sense is a unit who provides, well, support to the other characters, be it through healing, buffs, debuffs, energy, or whatever the game decides to do with them. In the case of ZZZ, OU decided Lucy will provide support by killing enemies by herself. Oh, and she also gives an attack buff, but who cares, she kills stuff. We will cover her kit and how to maximize her support and damage potentials, her best disk drive sets and stats, her weapons, her mindscapes, her teams, rotations and combos, and have a look at her pros and cons. Welcome, I am Ravenous and this is your complete Lucy guide. Lucy is a fire support type agent who specializes in dealing a lot of damage off field, while providing attack and possibly crit damage buffs to not only your team but also your Bangboos and herself. While she is meant to support your team, you can also simply play her solo or in a team as a main DPS, cause her numbers are honestly completely overtuned. Before we dive into her guide, let me clarify that I will cover both support and main DPS Lucy in this guide, and while I do think that main DPS Lucy is a fun and honestly also viable playstyle, it cannot compete with your usual DPS characters at max level. However, it can get pretty close and it makes also for great thumbnails. That said, let's dive into her kit. Also, don't skip this part, I promise you will learn something new, and if not, call me out in the comments. Lucy's basic attack consists of not only her own 4-part basic attack, but also those of her boars and their abilities. Lucy can have up to 3 boars on field and they will assist you in combat dealing physical damage even while Lucy is off field. The boars will randomly swap between using one of 3 weapons of various strength every few seconds, and regardless of which one they use, they do look honestly absolutely adorable. When Lucy inflicts damage with the 4th hit of her basic attack, all boars will use their special ability Spinning Swing, which basically just turns them into Garen for 2 seconds. The Spin to Win has an actual insane damage multiplier and it does surprisingly a lot of damage. It is basically a 25k DPI Nuviet times 3. Unfortunately, when talking about her boars, while they do inherit Lucy's attack, impact and crit values, they do not care much about her other stats. Honestly, they don't care about it at all. This unfortunately means my full physical Lucy cook, which I wanted to do, it looks pretty useless now and makes me honestly a bit sad. They can also not be buffed by the likes of Rena, for example. First, let's actually look at her basic string, because it is not what it looks like. She has 2 basic attack strings, her first one being B1 into B2 into B3, with the B3 actually being the one where she jumps up and obliterates her boar in the air. Her B4 comes afterwards and is the enhanced fire attack where she swings twice, and that one being followed again by the alternative version of her B3. This makes her full basic attack string B1 into B2 and 3 into B4 into alternative B3. Furthermore, her alternative B3 can be followed up with her B4 again, which basically results in 3 permanently spinning boars, and you can continue with an infinite loop of B4 into alternative B3 afterwards. However, please note that any dodges, dash attacks or similar will interrupt and reset her combo, having you restart from her basic 1. Her special is not something we usually want to use, except to either summon, assign or reallocate the target for our boars, but we mostly want to focus on her EX special. When using her EX special, she steps back, brings out her baseball bat and calls forth a boar right next to her, just to smack the living shit out of it. This sends the boar flying and they will explode when hitting either an enemy or a wall, dealing pretty significant AoE fire damage. Doing so will also summon 2 additional boars if you didn't have 3 already, and grant the cheer on buffs to all allies. This includes your team, Bangboos and the boars themselves. Depending on if you simply pressed or held her EX special, the buff will last 10 or 15 seconds respectively. Cheer On grants up to 600 flat combat attack to allies and up to 1200 to the boars, while also buffing their attack frequency. The actual amount of attack granted is based on Lucy's attack. At skill level 10, that would be 21% plus 80, which means we need to hit a breakpoint of about 2500 attack. This is honestly really easily achievable. Her chain attack and especially ultimate deals some absolutely massive fire damage. Like, what is this? If nuclear drama could be visualized, Lucy's ult would fit that pretty well. In any case, we will leave it at that until it becomes relevant again a little bit later when looking at her Mindscapes. Her additional ability is responsible for having her boars inherit her crit values, so we do want to make sure it always is active, even more so if your Lucy is built, and it is absolutely mandatory if you play her as your main DPS. That should cover her overall kit, and we can now have a look at her damage distribution to determine her skill priority. On the left we have main DPS Lucy and on the right support Lucy, which means we have two skill priorities. For support Lucy, while a large part of her damage comes from her boars, her special is what grants us the attack buff in the first place, which means our skill priority is core skill and special into basics and ultimate into assist and lastly dodge. If you want to play her as main DPS, our skill priority changes slightly to core skill and basics into ultimate and special into dodge and assist. For her weapons, well, there are not too many choices which actually make a lot of sense for her. Her signature weapon, Kaboom, is her go-to choice for both playstyles, with Reverb Mark III being a fine alternative for herself, but honestly it's pretty mid when looking at team damage overall. If you decide main DPS Lucy is something you wanna play, probably honestly mostly for fun, Weeping Cradle is the best weapon of choice due to her own attacks being able to trigger the weapon's effect, and because this effect actually also boosts the damage of your boars, and that makes her damage skyrocket by quite a bit. However, the boars themselves are not able to trigger said effect, which makes Weeping Cradle kinda unusable for support Lucy, since her own damage doesn't really matter when played as a support. Also, pen ratio does not work for her boars as well. For disk drive sets, regardless if you play her as main DPS or support, the goal is to reach 2500 attack while maximizing her damage potential. This also means a 4-piece Inferno with a 2-piece Woodpecker is her best choice, regardless of which weapon you have, with any other 2-piece offset being just a little bit behind. A 4-piece Woodpecker is yet another option, however you will not make much use of the set when playing her as support, in which case a 4-piece Swing Jazz is your set of choice. For her main stats, crit rate on partition 4, fire damage percent or attack percent on partition 5 and attack percent on partition 6 are your best choices when playing her as main DPS at least. If played as support, a layout of crit rate with double attack percent is the best choice, as you will make way less use of any fire damage you may inflict, and we instead want to focus on buffing up her boars instead. For her Substat Priority, we are looking mainly for attack percent until the breakpoint, then crit values into flat attack and lastly flat pen. Regarding her Mindscapes, her C2 gives you an easier uptime on the cheer on buff, her C4 grants 10% crit damage to the entire team, which benefits both main DPS and support Lucy, and her C6 is what you kinda wanna look out for if you plan to play her as main DPS. However, even for support Lucy, this is honestly still a nice damage increase, even if not as much. Having all that said, these videos and honestly the calcs behind much more so take a lot of time to make, and if you like them and find them useful, I would appreciate a like and comment on the video. Let me know in the comments below if you also want to be kicked by Lucy or not. Let's talk about her teams. Lucy is an incredible support for many teams and can easily find herself a slot as a support unit in many teams. I will just list you a few on screen here right now. There are honestly too many, as Lucy is such an incredible flexible unit. If you plan on trying her as a hyper carry or main DPS, she has quite a bit less teams to choose from. Again, a few on screen here right now. With Sokaku being the only other unit currently who can provide attack, and Ben being the only other unit who can technically provide crit rate, well, aside from Nicole at Mindscape 6, the buffs of those two units are the most accessible ones to boost your Lucy's damage output. Personally, I believe Lucy, Kolleda, Sokaku to be the best team for her as of right now. So, how do we actually play her? Well, fortunately for you, Lucy's rotations are really easy, regardless of which playstyle you choose. If you play her as support, we open combat with a Held Lucy EX special and repeat that every 15 seconds. Except if you have her Mindscape too, in which case this is probably the only action you ever have to do. Well, aside from chain attacks of course. If you play her as main DPS, we will start combat with her EX special as well, just to get our boars out as soon as possible, and then we mindlessly smash our basic attacks until the enemy is dead. Don't forget to dodge in between, even if it will reset your basic attack string. Use ultimate and EX special whenever available. Lastly, let's also talk about some small advanced trick regarding her EX special, and that one is to abuse her actually really long invulnerability time window. As seen here, instead of dodging, we can time her EX special to dodge incoming attacks instead. It also repositions Lucy slightly and allows us to even dodge long-lasting close range attacks or step out of AoE areas effectively without losing too much DPS. However, it is super important to note that only her EX special provides this iframe window. Her normal special does not. This window can also be somewhat extended by using a dodge directly into her EX special, which effectively grants you around 2 seconds of invulnerability. However, it does come at the cost of her EX special, so use it with care. And that honestly is all. I guess if played as main DPS, regarding her Bangboo at least, Rocket Boo is the best choice. In any case, she is really easy to play. However, before we end the video, let us talk about her pros and cons. For her cons, there are not too many if played as support, with the worst one being that she is currently more or less reliant on either Piper or a secondary fire agent in the squad just to get her additional ability. If played as main DPS, her boars are really slow, and agile enemies can simply run or dash away from them as they please, which basically sends your boars on an AFK journey. For her pros, her damage output is pretty disgusting, given how she is classified as a support apparently, and while also taking basically no field time to provide and reapply said buff, with it being close to none if you have her Mindscape too. She is also really easy to play, and due to her generic attack buff, can also be easily slotted into most teams. That all being said, this is all you need to know about Lucy. Thank you so much for watching. Please leave a like and a comment if you liked this video. Don't forget to subscribe for more ZZZ content. Join the Discord if you haven't yet, the link is in the description. And if you still doubt DPS Lucy is a thing, please enjoy the showcase. Peace. Can do a lot of EX specials fortunately right now. Ult here. And get hit right afterwards. That's not what I wanted to do. Question is if we can get enough ultimate things back or he goes into the face. Because I kinda do not want to get the last phase because it fucking sucks. But I think he will get into the last phase. I cannot get the ultimate before. Yeah, crap. I don't know how to play this phase. That's my problem. Like, I cannot dodge this. There's just too much to do. Fuck! Wrong ultimate.